The last week or so, I've had this same question sent to me in several different ways, but it's pretty much the same question. And that question is a very common question that the betrayed wrestles with as they are trying to work through healing and restoration. The question is, if you choose to forgive your spouse, does that mean that you have to reconcile? It's a little bit more aptly put, can you forgive your spouse or partner without reconciling? Or if you forgive them, does that mean that you have to reconcile? Please hear me graciously, but there is this error that has been perpetrated that says, if you forgive your spouse or are choosing to forgive them, you have to reconcile, and that's just simply not true. You see, forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself. It sounds like a Hallmark card, I get it. It sounds like just a pretty little meme. But the truth is, when we choose to forgive our spouse, or in this scenario, when you forgive the unfaithful spouse, that is something that you do for you. It is to help you heal. It is to get peace of mind back. It is to get your life back. It's to set yourself free from bitterness and resentment and anger and hostility. It is to unchain yourself from these reactions which seem like you have no choice over at times. It is getting your own peace of mind back in possession so that you can move on in life, whether with that spouse or with a new one or with none at all, in a way that is genuinely fulfilling, rewarding, and is under the auspices of being a healed individual. Not perfect, just healed. There are so many people that help run our online groups like Harboring Hope and Hope for Healing who are healed. They're not perfect. They're still a work in progress as an individual, but they are healed. They've gotten to the other side of the colossal damage that they had to work through, and some of them are divorced. Some of them are still married. But the fact is, they are healed. You see, you can choose to forgive a spouse that wounds you, that violates you, that brings infidelity into your life. You can choose to forgive them, but maybe not even be ready to reconcile, and maybe choose not to reconcile with them. That does not make you a bad person. That does not make you someone who is an albatross. You are not going against biblical values should you choose to not restore your marriage when there's been the case of infidelity. You do have that choice. We at affairrecovery.com are very pro-marriage, but we never force someone into making a decision to save their marriage going against their will. We work on 3 recoveries. There's your recovery, there's your spouse's recovery, and there's the potential recovery of the marriage. I mean, I've been doing this long enough, our staff has been doing this long enough to tell you there are no guarantees. But for the person that is willing to do whatever it takes, whether it be unfaithful or whether it be betrayed, you can absolutely heal. To stay on point, it's possible to forgive, but choose not to reconcile. Now, switching gears, I must be honest with you and tell you that if you're going to reconcile, you are absolutely going to have to forgive your spouse. That doesn't mean you have to forget. Some people also think, well, if I forgive, that means I'm forgetting what they've done. No. And to be honest, it's impossible. It's possible to live out from underneath the shadow of that. Samantha and I don't deal with infidelity every day. We don't even talk about it every day. We don't live under that shadow and haven't for at least a decade, maybe 12 some odd years. But I can tell you, if you're going to want to reconcile, it is going to be necessary for you as a betrayed to forgive your spouse. And you as an unfaithful are going to have to forgive your spouse for things as well. It is something that is essential. It doesn't mean that you forget as a betrayed spouse what they've done. That's, to be honest, ludicrous. You are going to remember probably one of the most incredible, painful experiences you've ever been through as a human being. But that doesn't mean that you can't forgive it. Because if you're going to work on reconciliation but not forgive, you're going to remain chained. You're going to be in your own prison. It's going to be very hard for you to move through the stages of recovery work without staying stuck, because you've got this bitterness, this resentment, this anger, this rage even stuck inside of you. And for some of you, you may be experiencing this significant blockage in your reconciliation process. And that may mean that you need to do more forgiveness. That may mean that you are coming up to a new level of forgiveness. I talk to people all the time that say, look, I forgave my spouse. Why am I now experiencing this anger 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the road? Well, sometimes it requires a new season of forgiveness, a new level of forgiveness. I've talked about this before, but about the 4.5 year mark, Samantha had this real struggle with some things that were coming up. And some of it was physical intimacy, some of it was resentment about maybe unfulfilled expectations. And we had to work through it. And she kind of hit that point where it's like, wait a minute, I'm like 4 years down the road, what's going on? And through getting some help from Rick and our other mentors, they helped her see, look, it's not that you didn't forgive Sam. It isn't that your heart wasn't all in it. You could only forgive what you were aware of. And you are now kind of experiencing some things that you are now aware of. And the way through now is the way that you found your way through it years ago. It's forgiveness, maybe even some grief, and then letting go and pursuing the next season. But it's normal, somewhere maybe in the 3, 4, maybe even 5-year mark, to hit this point where you're like, what's going on? It's probably necessary for another layer of forgiveness that you have come to grips with. Here's another question that's kind of the same gene pool, if you will, and it's, well, am I obligated to forgive if I'm going to work through restoration? If you come from faith, you are obligated to forgive your spouse if you're pursuing restoration. I would go a step further and tell you that even if you're not going to pursue your marriage, if you want to heal, you are obligated to forgive for those that come through faith. You can read the Gospels all through the New Testament. It speaks directly to that. If you don't come from faith and you are going to work towards restoration, I don't know that I would say you're obligated to forgive. I would just appeal to you and ask you why you wouldn't want to forgive. Because forgiveness is letting go of all hope of having a better past. Forgiveness is extending mercy to your spouse or partner. Forgiveness is choosing to live with the consequences of your spouse's behavior in a way that sets you free and will set the relationship free. So my appeal would be, well, why wouldn't you want to forgive them if you're pursuing restoration? It's essential. It is what sets you both free, removes the clouds and the haze, and creates the opportunity for you to do recovery work in a way that will build momentum very quickly. If you don't come from faith and you're working on your own recovery, are you obligated to forgive? Friend, I can't make you do anything. I would only appeal to you to begin to study forgiveness, and not even from a faith perspective, but from an atheist or an agnostic approach, and understand the benefits that forgiveness will give you in terms of your mind, in terms of your heart, in terms of even your health. To land the plane of this conversation today, can you forgive and not reconcile? Absolutely. And I don't know if your relationship is going to give you the opportunity for reconciliation. I don't know, but I can tell you that forgiveness will absolutely change your life personally.